This is Mia from Mimo Design Laser Files, and today I have the most amazing project to show you. So I am working on these small dishes for candy or chocolates or whatever. I came up with the idea because I needed something to use for these annoying scrap pieces I have from making plates. So I came up with this. The larger dish will hold Ferrero Rocher, Linder chocolates, all these chocolates that are about 3.5 centimeters. Also, I have a smaller version for either these little candy hearts. You could also add Skittles or Smarties, M&Ms, whatever you want. The best thing about this is that it is completely scrap free. So besides being able to use these as self-standing shelf sitters, the scrap cutting from the inside is perfect for shelf sitters as well. So here's a few different variations that I made. So once you are done with these, you actually have 6 products to sell instead of just 3. So today I'll teach you how I make these, and another great thing is that once the recipients have eaten up all chocolates, this will be amazing as a shelf sitter or signage or whatever. Or they could re-gift it if they want. So I know a lot of you will be asking about food safety. I will tell you everything about this because these you are going to make food safe if you want them to hold unwrapped candy. The larger ones that only holds wrapped candy is not as important, but it's still important. The reason you need to make these food safe, I'll just show you this because I haven't cleaned it yet, is that first of all you'll have the residue, which is disgusting to say it at least. For the edges you'll probably also have some residue coming off, which is also disgusting. And the worst part, if you're going to make these from plywood that is that the adhesive that I use to glue these layers of plywood together are in fact toxic. So if you are going to use candy that is not wrapped, you really want to make these food safe. It's honestly really easy to do because you just want to seal it correct. We have a storm today and it's also raining, so I couldn't show you the entire process. But if you want to learn how to make it completely food safe, you should check out this video that I have linked up here and also down below the comments. But I'll explain it to you as well as I can. So let's remove these and get started making. So these are cut from 2 pieces of scrap. I cut mine with the large one and I can fit the smaller one on the side. So imagine my little rim of scraps here. I could actually show you the wood that I cut it from. So I have this annoying edge here, which is why I came up with the idea for making these. Besides having the big version and the smaller version, I also included a medium size in the laser files because I wanted to make you able to fit these Hershey Kisses in the tray as well. Let me just grab the small one, because as you see, it is too big to stand in the middle. So I do have a medium version as well. I'm not going to make it, but it is included with the files for you. So once you've cut your projects, I do recommend that you maybe use some tape to hold these inner pieces. They will fit in all kind of angles and the holes, since they are the same inner pieces. For the love, it's a little easier because you only have this one to glue back on. For the XOXO, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces that you need to glue back on. But don't worry. Painting is really easy because I will just paint the front layer one color, and then I'll paint the back layer another color. Once you have cut this project, you do want to sand it, at least on the surface of the frame and on both sides of the actual tray. I do recommend that you take a baby wipe or a toothbrush, or you rinse your wood or something like that to get rid of the black residue or brown residue if you have any. Once you have sanded your project, take a dry paintbrush or use air compression to blow off the dust from your frame and everything else. The frame you don't have to sand on the back. I have a lot of flashback, as you can see, but as long as you use food safe glue, I'm using this universal glue from Wienerwheel. It's no problem because you are going to seal the entire tray with food safe coating afterwards. So I think that's the introduction to what you want to do. If you have any more questions, please drop them below, because it is important that you make these safe for food, especially if you are going to fill it with unwrapped candy. You don't want anyone to get sick from this project. So I'll just move this unfinished piece aside and I'll show you how to paint and assemble. So let's start with the smaller version. For my smaller version, I would like my signage inside to have this effect, and for the bigger version I will cover it with glitter, but I'll try to make it 2 colors since you have the XOXO. So let's see, and I will reverse these colors, so the small tray will kind of end up looking like this. So what I did with this one was that I used chalk paint for the frame. I have this chalk paint from a brand called Fleur. You can use any, but this is non-toxic. Not that it does matter, because you are going to seal it afterwards anyway. So you can actually use anything you want. If you want, you could also use colored varnish. This is varnish, and I took my brush and I wiped over all the edges with my varnish. So this is completely sealed inside and outside because I painted it to be sealed. But for this one, I want the frame to be red and the bottom to be white. So I'll take my chalk paint and use a foam brush. I will place links for everything I use down below, and I'll just wipe it over. Be careful that you don't add a lot of pressure when you get to the edge. That way you can keep your edge more or less clean of paint. This took 2 minutes. So once I'm done, I will just carefully lift sorry, the delivery guy just arrived. So once it's dry, I will just carefully lift up my pieces and let them dry. Now I can check the sides for paint, and as you see, it is really clean everywhere, I think. So let's see if I have anything that needs to be wiped off, and it doesn't look like it. So painting with the foam brush is really easy. Now I just want this to dry and I'll continue with the bottom. I'm done with my reds and I'll continue with some whites. For my white, I'm also using chalk paint from Fleur. You could just keep this natural. That's what I did on this one if you want. This wood, by the way, is 10mm poplar plywood. You can use any thickness of material, and depending on how much height you want your tray to have, you can layer more frames. So it's not as important to be able to cut thick material as it is to be able to layer the frames exactly on top of each other. But let's open my white here, and I am going to use a larger brush for this one because I will also be using it for the big one. So just wipe it over. And don't worry too much about the scored marks. It is just an indication on where you need to add the inner parts afterwards. But you do have the frame and everything to align it with as well, which I'll show you in just a minute. So that's the bottom for the small tray. While I do have my white can open, I will take the board here as well. So this is the top frame on the big board, and as I did before, I will remove it, and you do see that I have a little bit of spillage here, so I'll just take my finger and wipe it off or smudge it out. So let's put this aside. Check this inner piece. There's a little there as well. And when you are not going to have the sign here, food safe, you could just take a Sharpie and you could run it over to hide any spillage of paint if you want. That's a little extra tip. Let's move this aside. And check the inner pieces, which seem to be fine. So I actually want to make an ombre effect on this bottom. So let's see if we can do that. So I want to use my pink paint here, and I'll also add in some purple. Again, this is chalk paint. I do not have a lot of this size brushes, so I'll just use my smaller ones, and I will make the O pink and the X's purple. So you take your paint and you wipe it over like this. And it doesn't matter that you are not going all the way out to the edge, because your frame will be hiding the edge anyway. So let's grab the purple, and you do want to apply both while the first layer, it still wets. So I think I need to shake this a little. There we go. And I'll take my purple here on the X. And chalk paint is maybe not the greatest option for blending colors because it dries really fast. So you could use acrylic, regular acrylic paint as well, if that's what you prefer. But now that I have this, I do want it to be kind of smudged together. So I am actually going to use this round foam brush and just kind of rubbing it in the middle here. And now that I have the overlapping sections, I will actually just take my brush and wipe over everything and hope that I will have some colors blending with each other. And you can add a little of each color if you are not completely satisfied. So I will see if I can make this effect a little more visible. Oops. And you can paint as much or as little on the bottoms and frames and everything else as you want. In the end, you will be making it food safe, so you can really do anything you prefer and want with these boards. But let's see how this will look. I'll just grab my frame up here and just place these randomly. So this is actually kind of cute, in my opinion. What do you think? Drop a comment below if you have another opinion or suggestion on what I could do instead. So I actually want my X's to be a little more visible as X's. So I'll just carefully take my purple here and mark where the X starts and stops. I'll remove my frame. And then I will go in and just add a little of my purple paint in the X shape. I still want it to be blended together, so I will kind of dab what I just painted. And let's see what difference this made. So that's one tray. And this is done and finished to be glued together. But I will let my paint dry just a little more. So let's show you how to glue it together on this one instead. So assembling is really easy. You just take your bottom. I do want to sand this just a little so it will be smooth. For that I will just be using this very fine sanding sponge. I'll also drop the link below for these because these are brilliant. And it's now smooth. So I will take my edge here, but I will actually not glue this down until I have these small pieces inside. So I will be using the sign, if you call it that, for reference. You could glue in the pieces as is, but it is a little easier to just drop them in. So I will place a little tiny drop of glue inside these scored markings. And I will see if I can spread it out just a little, because I do want it to bond to the whole thing. But as you see, I don't have a lot of glue on this. So now I will just carefully, I'll align my frame and then I'll carefully place this one on top. I will not let it drop, because then I might risk that this will also be glued down. So now that I have this, I can just push in my pieces. And they should fall directly down to where they want to be or need to be. I don't know if I have some excess paint in this one. Doesn't want to drop, but that's okay. Then I'll carefully lift this up, and they are actually positioned exactly where I want them. So I'll just manually place this one. And with these scored marks, it should be easy to see where everything goes. I might need a little extra glue for this one. Let's see if the other ones are in place. And it's totally up to you if you want to glue these on manually or you want to use the technique I just showed. So I don't want too much glue, so I'll actually just wipe off some of it. Oops. And there's my final piece. So now I can glue on the frame, and I do want it to be glued all the way around without too many gaps. So I'll kind of slide my glue over the entire edge. Then you just place it and make sure that it is aligned to the bottom by using your fingers to feel the alignments of it. And if you are making more layers on the top frame, I would probably, whoops, this one moved. I would probably suggest that you add the frame layers first before you add them to the bottom. So you have the frame totally aligned before adding it on the bottom. Depending what glue you're using, and if your wood is warped, you might place something heavy on top by now or use clamps to hold it down. But this one is fine. So another little thing, as I said before, if you do have some things that you need to hide, you can use a Sharpie and you can just color the edge like this for a prettier result. And since it's the outer edge, it doesn't matter what you use. But to make it food safe, and here's where the weather is kind of messing with me, because to make it food safe, you really do want to seal especially these inner edges where the plywood layers are visible. So you could either, and this is what I use this varnish. It's from a brand called Luxens, which you can get in Leroy Merlin if you have one close by. But there's a ton of other possibilities. I know that you probably can't get this in the US, but then you could use shellac. You could also use polyurethane, and there's several brands which are actually food graded. So I will drop a list below that I put together the last time that I made this type of food safe video, which you still are able to watch. So I will put a list together. But when you are sealing this, and I'll just show without spraying because I'm inside, you want to come from this angle, then you'll shift to this angle, then you'll shift to this angle, and at last this angle. That way you'll be sure that your varnish is covering everything. You could also use this in canned versions. So this is my clear. I also have in different colors, and mine comes in shiny or glossy and matte and everything in between. If you are applying with this, you just take either a brush. I have to find a big one, maybe this size, and you can then add it to the edges like this. Or you could do it before you assemble, and then you could just maybe take a finger with gloves on and wipe on the varnish on all the edges. So it is pretty easy to make it food safe, but you just have to know what material you want to use. So this varnish that I have is the type of varnish that you also use for kitchen countertops. So anything that you use for kitchen countertops, you can assume is food safe or food graded. But that's the small tray. And I could show you again how I glue this one together, but I will just skip that and I'll go straight to finishing the small signs here. So the big one, I wanted to add glitter. I want red glitter on the X's, and I want the O to be white glitter. So I will show that in just a second, but it is a little messy. So I'll rather start by showing you this one, which I'll make somewhat the same effects as I did on this. So to avoid a lot of mess, I will place a paper beneath this, and I will start with this champagne gold acrylic paint. I'll just remove the cap and dip my brush straight to the bottle. And for this you want a brush that is kind of worn out but still working, and you just dip it down here, and then you just tap off most of the paint. Once this is tapped off, you apply some strokes just randomly, and if you hit the edge of something, you will have a little more paint stuck to those edges, which in the end is what creates this beautiful antique effect. So I'll just go from the other side as well. And I'll just keep going until I feel like I'm satisfied and everything is covered. And as you do see, it is pretty fast and easy to do. And it's also very random, but in the end it will be gorgeous. And if I have any spots that I feel like I need some more paint on, I'll use a flat brush and I'll just run it over the edges. And you can kind of stamp it just a little with the tip of your brush. And you could stop here and just make it like this, which is gorgeous. But I will also be adding in a little chalk paint, which will make it a little more matte looking, while the shine from the glitter paint here shines through. So I will again be using chalk paint. This time it's called Sophistication, so it's not totally white, it's a little more off-white, but I find that to be gorgeous along with the effects. So I am going to use the same brush, so I'll just carefully dip it so I don't get my gold stuck. And again, I am going to tap off most of my paint, and then I'll just do the same as I did with the gold. But this time I'll also run a little more over the edge, so it will make this washed effect. And there we go. So I could add in a few more details. So I'll add a little more paint, and then I'll just carefully go over. I actually think I'll use this brush instead, and then I can place some stripes. Like that. And since I have the X connected to the O, I will go in and just kind of outline it here. And make sure that it matches the edge of the X and the O. So that way you can create a little kind of 3D effects. And that's it. So this is really easy and great looking, in my opinion. So this was the love. Let's remove this. And now I'll show you how to add the glitter. So for this little project you will be needing 2 colors of glitter. I'll use this pink and a white. You can use whatever color you want, but I definitely totally recommend placing a piece of paper for this. Also, you will be needing some glue or Mod Podge. I will use this type of Wienerwheel because it is in this can, so it makes it a little easier for me to work with. And I'll be applying this with a foam brush as well. So what you want to do is basically to paint the letters in the direction or the order that you want to apply glitter to. So I will start with the 2 X's. And the great thing about using this foam brush is that you can actually create pretty decent edges on the X. So just run it out to the edge like this, and I will take the other X right away. If your glue is drying really fast, you should probably pour glitter on the first and then you can take the next afterwards. But I know that this glue is not as fast drying, so I have the option to place glue on both. So I will not add any glue just yet to the O's, but now that I have this, I can take my pink glitter. Whoops, it was open just a little. And the reason I am using a piece of paper beneath is because I can then pick up my additional glitter and pour it back to my can. So I'm just applying the glitter all the way on top of the letter like this, and I'll take the other X. And as long as you don't have glue on the O, no glitter should be stuck on it. So, and once it's covered, you just take your sign and you fold it up and tap off all the glitter. And if you had a bigger piece of paper, I would probably advise that. You do see that I am missing a few spots here, so I'll just add some more glue on these areas. And then I can go in and just add a little glitter on top of these missing spots. Tap it off. And there you go. So that's the excess. So now, oops, I do miss a spot over here as well. Let's just fix that. Maybe even a little more here. That's it, I think. So now that I have my excess, I will just clean up this. So you close your lids on your glitter, assuming you are using these big ones, and then you take off the lids. Then you take your paper and you carefully fold it and tap it on the sides, so your glitter will be in the middle. And then you carefully fold a little corner, I hope you can see this, in the bottom of your paper. Then you should be able to just pour this extra glitter straight down to your can or bottle. Give it a little tap on the back here. Whoops. And most of my excess glitter is now in the bottle. So I'll just take the lid and put it back on. I do have a little excess, so I did spill just a little, but that's okay. So for the white, I will of course be doing the same. So I'll grab a new piece of paper. And I did have a little of my pink sitting on this O. So now I actually think I'll take a new foam brush, because this one did get a little glitter on it as well. So I'll just go in with my glue again, and I'll cover the O's. So like that, and then it's onto the white glitter, and exactly as I did before, I'll just carefully tap it over the letters. When I hit this edge with the X, I'll be a little more careful that I don't get the white on top of the pink. And I am actually going to tap this off right away. Because then I can fit the last O a little better on the paper. And I am a little careful around the edges for the pink. Since it is covered in pink, it should just fall off, but it might blend just a tiny bit, and I actually don't want it to blend too much. Let's tap this off. And I'll evenly turn it because I can see that it will get stuck. And I'll just check if I'm missing any spots, but it actually don't seems like I am. So this one is ready, but since I don't like glitter everywhere, I will be coating this with clear acrylic or my varnish as well, just to keep the glitter on this little shelf sitter and not have it all over. So only thing left is to get this back inside my can. I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video. The files for this project is available in my Etsy shop, Mimo Design Laser Files, and also on our own platform, allstarsdesign.com. If you are making anything out of my files, these or other, I would love to see your results. So if you are sharing your work, please tag me with Mimo Design, and I will make sure to write my feedback about your little projects. Meanwhile, I'm always curious about what you think of my videos here and also my files. So please drop a comment below with your thoughts. And if you have any suggestions to new files, new tutorials, or anything else, please drop a comment as well. I really hope to see you soon, and have a nice day.